And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling VII, New Moon Rising on TNT.
The plot of that movie just continually spins in new and unexpected directions. And the woman presenting the Oscar at the end, that's Barry Humphries in drag, the guy who does Dame Edna Everage. Great movie. Unfortunately, our next movie is The Howling VII, which was apparently made by 3 drunk rednecks with a camcorder. Anyhow, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and next week we have another franchise-type double feature, only this time they're actually showing them in the right order. It's the best Gremlins ripoff of 1984, Ghoulies, which will follow up with Ghoulies 2, and of course both flicks feature midgets in serious dramatic roles. Now, there's a lot of resemblance between the various Howling movies. For example, they all have the word howling in their titles. In fact, that's the main thing that they have in common. So I'll still synopsize the missing Howlings for you, though, to put your mind at ease as we skip to Part 7. Now, we just watched The Howling 3. The Howling 4 takes place in a town called Drago, and the werewolves look like German shepherds with a shag rug strapped to their back. And that's about all you need to know about that one. Howling 5 is basically Gilligan's Island in a Hungarian castle with a body count. Howling 6 is pretty decent. It's sort of the feminist Howling. And that brings us to the Howling 7. Now, remember when I said that a bunch of people wrote in to warn me of the awfulness of the Howling 3? Where were you guys on this one? Number 3 is like Casablanca compared to number 7. You know, Clive Turner, this guy named Clive Turner, wrote, produced, directed, edited, and he stars as a two-stepping hippie cowboy who gets a job in a small-town bar where a bunch of locals stand around and tell each other bad jokes while people get attacked by a werewolf off camera. And the locals of the town are played by the actual locals of this town where it was filmed, for better or worse. So I'll let you decide, but let's do to the drive-in totals, and then we'll get started. We have 23 dead bodies, 4 dead werewolves, throat ripping, tourist hacking, head rolls, melting husband, lethal chili con carne, gratuitous line dancing, gratuitous sing-along, billy club foo, more gratuitous line dancing. I give it about 1/2 star. So check it out, and please do not leave me alone with this movie, okay? See, I'm no longer allowed to advise the use of a cold foamer to get through a movie. That's not allowed anymore by TNT standards and practices. Those wonderful people there, I think they're related to the house managers. That's all I'm going to say, all right?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling VII, New Moon Rising on TNT.
Whoa, huh? Look at the hematomas on that gal Jacqueline. She never speaks, but she lets those Winnebagos do her talking for her, doesn't she? Okay, I bet you didn't realize this was going to be a musical, did ya? Is that the most depressing line dancing you have ever seen? What are they doing in the dark there? It looks like line dancing from hell. And then we got that weird choreographed scene with the guys in the sombreros sweeping up with the synchronized drinking. And of course, Pappy and Harriet's musical number. I'm guessing that I don't really need to remind you that these people are non-actors. That is the late Pappy Allen as Pappy and Harriet Allen as Harriet. And so far, I've found one guy with an actual film credit who's in this movie, John Huff, who plays the priest. John Huff starred in a silent movie when he was a kid in 1925, a Western called Xander the Great. So he's the Laurence Olivier of the cast. And so when he was, I guess when he was 10 years old, he starred in that movie. And then when he was 80 years old, he starred in this movie. But all of these people are residents of the real Pioneer Town, California. Ask me what Pioneer Town is. I have no idea. Okay, back to the flick. How much do you think this movie cost? Any guesses? About 150 bucks, right? Of course, it was made back in 1996, when 150 bucks bought a lot more than it does today. Today, it costs $152. So, and yes, we're going to watch the whole thing.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling 7, New Moon Rising on TNT.
Okay. Maybe it'll get better. Right? We're only 36 minutes into the film, you know. But you know those two guys, the priest and the police inspector? Every time they come on the screen, I have to go, now, who are these guys again? Because the priest doesn't really look or talk like a priest, and the cop sure doesn't look like a cop. And then for some reason, whenever they start the flashback story about what happened to the werewolves in the Hungarian castle, the inspector guy goes, you know what, I'm tired. Could I take a rain check on the rest of that story? Or he'll say, before you finish that, could we take a break and get a little fresh air? This might be the only screenplay in the history of the movies that actually shows people taking a break and getting a little fresh air. You know, hey, Cheryl. Hey, Jim, have you seen Ted? He's over there. Thanks, Jim. Hey, Jim. Hey, Ted, Cheryl's looking for you. She's over there. Thanks, Jim. Screenplay by Clive Turner, copyright 1995. Clive Turner, he's Ted, the Australian hippie guy, right? As I mentioned, he's the auteur of this baby, although there was apparently a co-director named Roger Nall who Clive stole the full credit from. I'm sure Roger is really PO'd that his name got taken off this movie. And for those of you tracing your Howling history, we had some flashbacks to part 5 in there, all that Budapest stuff. Well, so pretty much any time you see something that looks like it costs more than $1 to film, that's a flashback to an earlier movie. I am kind of confused, though, because in part 5, Clive Turner played a guy named Ray, not Ted. So I don't know if some other guy played Ted or they changed his name for some reason or what, but who cares? Let's do some more line dancing, okay? Yeah. Roll it. This is kind of like one of our favorites around here, The Legend of Boggy Creek. You know that movie? That also stars real people from Falk, Arkansas. But The Legend of Boggy Creek, that doesn't stop for satanic line dancing every 5 minutes. It's a nice touch they have here, don't you think?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling 7, New Moon Rising on TNT.
This movie just gets better and better, doesn't it? So, what do we know now? It takes 3 years, roughly the amount of time between sequels, for the werewolf to, quote, develop fully. And if there's a full moon, it will become engorged with an awesome new power. That's what I used to say to my ex-wife. No, really, honey, at midnight, I become engorged with an awesome new power. But my favorite actor is Brock, the fat guy. He seems to specialize in sitting around at the bar. That's all Brock does. Brock does the entire movie with one expression, with a beer in his hand. Then, of course, I mentioned before that chesty blonde gal, Jacqueline, who does speak after all. Whatever it was not normal. That was her line. And by the way, that's Sybil Ramsden as Sybil, the priest wacky secretary. Sybil was also in, let's see, gee, well, I guess this is the only thing she was in, isn't it, huh? I think she's married to John Ramsden, who plays the inspector. And he must have some other credits, right? Nothing for him either. Isn't that strange? Well, it's almost time for another musical number. And the next one features Pappy doing his most famous song, Stand Up. Oh, yeah. This, you're not gonna believe, so roll it. It's a musical, it's a comedy, it's a werewolf movie. Oh, I knew there was something missing, wasn't there? They forgot the werewolf part, didn't they? They're not gonna line dance again, are they?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling 7, New Moon Rising on TNT.
So let's see now. Those wacky party animals from Pioneer Town go out in the desert and find a dead body, but they decide not to tell anyone, just bury him, because they find a newspaper clipping in his pocket revealing that he's a murderer. Is that what happened? See, I missed it because I was still reeling from the chili scene. Pappy's chili goes bad. Pappy goes for a drink. Was that about the fourth time Pappy just, like, went for a drink? You know? That's about enough for you, Pappy. Isn't that what they say every time he has a drink? And how about that rousing Pappy Allen country song, Stand Up? You think that's available on CD? Can I buy that? Now I see what was going on in the minds of the TNT programming department, putting these two flicks together. It's that Australian connection, right? They thought, well, we could show Howling VI, which has a couple of decent monsters as well as actual actors in it. Or we could show Howling VII, which has some Aussies living out in the California desert who decided to each contribute a nickel to make a werewolf movie without any werewolves in it. Yeah, let's show that one. By the way, I should point out that that's Janus as Janus, Dolores as Dolores, and you get the idea, right? Okay, back to the flick. All these little character bits really add to that story, though, don't they? Pappy's chili, isn't that cute? The woman playing the spoons, the George Jones discussions. Those are great. I love those moments. All the bar jokes. I can't even wait till you see... Oh, when you see what's coming up. This might be the only werewolf movie in history to feature a fat woman playing the spoons.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling VII, New Moon Rising on TNT.
Well, I was wondering when they would do a fart joke, weren't you? Because you can't even think about making a decent werewolf movie without a good fart joke. And, oh, also, can we have who's ever not working a camera come up here and do that deep in the heart of Texas thing with the zippers with me? Come on. Come on up here. You baby, well, at least sing with me, okay? The stars at night are big and bright. Start again. The stars at night are big and bright. Deep in the heart. I can't do it. You got to be a professional actor working at Pioneer Town to know how to do that. I'm sorry. I have to show a clip anyway. I just want you guys to watch. I want you to watch this dramatic moment again. I want you to watch how long it takes Pappy to say his line here, okay? Roll this clip. Watch this.
Nothing? No tracks anywhere?
Nope.
You didn't see anything?
Nope, I didn't.
You went around the whole town?
All around. I looked everywhere.
Harriet, he didn't see anything. How many more times you want him to tell you?
I just want to be sure.
Talk about your pregnant pause, huh? I think old Pappy really was having a few nips between the takes there. I wonder who was standing off screen waving their arms trying to get him to remember he had a line to say there. Oh, I should let you know that we do have an actual actress in the movie now, Romy Walthall as Marie. She was in Howling IV, known as Romy Windsor back then, and that was a flashback to the big money shot from Part 4, the one where the guy melts down to his bones and then he turns into a werewolf. Okay, back to Howling VII. Go. Howling VII, the only werewolf movie where the werewolf hunters say the line, "We're wasting valuable drinking time." How apropos.
Yeah.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling VII, New Moon Rising on TNT.
Oh, the horror, the horror. Have you ever seen people sitting around a campfire who sway in perfect unison to a song about using drugs? Well, now you have. And how about that blurry red lens, which signifies werewolf vision? It's becoming clearer and clearer why Clive Turner chose the people of Pioneer Town for his movie. What a talented bunch they are. And that cop looks like he's right off the force, doesn't he? They like him scruffy out in Barstow. You guys know where Barstow is? When you're driving from L.A. to Vegas, that's the town you stop in to gas up and use the facilities. And Pioneer Town is where the Barstow people go to get away from it all. Very happening place. Okay, thrilling conclusion to the immortal Howling VII. I hadn't been to Vegas in ages. Not since they made that old cheap part of it into a mall. I always felt at home in the old cheap part of it, though. Some of us are old, some of us are cheap, most of us are old and cheap, and that's what Vegas is all about, isn't it?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Howling VII, New Moon Rising on TNT.
Is it over? Those people aren't going to sing another song, are they? But I mean, it was sweet and everything. A student film made by elderly drunk cowboys. You don't see that every day. The Howling VII, written, directed, edited by, and starring the great Australian hippie, Clive Turner. Okay, I want to remind you that next week we have the great low-budget Gremlins ripoff and its successor, Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. So be sure you're around for that special Ghoulies night. That's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that the sight of a bald eagle has thrilled human beings for years. The sight of a bald man, however, does absolutely nothing for the eagle. Hey, do you guys know what a zebra is? No. 26 sizes larger than an A-bra. Oh. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. What do you get when you cross an elephant with a skin doctor? A pachydermatologist. What do you call 4 bullfighters in quicksand? Cuatro cinco. Why do walruses go to Tupperware parties? Don't know. To find a tight seal. How do you turn a fox into a cow? Marry her.